Hi, and welcome to Board Wrap-Up for the month of May, and as we record our program today, the final weeks of the Ponca City Public Schools for the 2011-2012 calendar school year are upon us. The summer months coming up as well, and we welcome Superintendent Dr. Pennington. First of all, congratulations. I know that you offer your congratulations to all the staff and the people who've made it another great year in Ponca City.
You know, I feel like we've done this show for at least I think ever since I've been here, and I know it seems like I repeat myself a lot, but you know, we really are lucky. We have a great community, lots of great kids, great teachers, and we're having another successful school year. And you know, there's a lot of ways to measure that. You can measure it in, of course, the best measure I think is the academic achievement of our students, and those parents and other people who attended the academic awards night a couple of weeks ago. I mean, all the scholarships our kids are receiving, and you know, all those academic awards are always important. The number of awards that teachers have won this year. I mean, we just have a lot of good things going on, and you know, and the other thing is the vast majority of our kids do come to school and do what they're supposed to do every day, and so it makes it a pleasure to work here. You know, obviously we have challenges. You know, schools continue every year. What people expect rises as we try to meet the demands of trying to help do our part in helping our country be competitive in a world economy, and help prepare our students to fit into that. But I think overall, most days, this is a pretty good place to be.
As we do our interview today, we're within a few days of graduation for this year's class, and I think it's interesting to get your perspective on graduation, because it's the highlight. It is the highlight event, and although you don't have a child graduating, you have 300 children graduating, right. And you kind of give the keynote address and you talk about the class. And how does that work into your schedule as you prepare for that? Do you try to have a prepared speech, or is it something that you just kind of come up with as you do it?
Yeah, you just kind of come up with it as you do it. You know, we in the difference between Ponca City and some places is we really try to make this the kids' night. And so what you'll notice if you come to one of our graduations is my statements are very limited. The same thing for the high school principal. And we let the students, you know, the valedictorian, salutatorian, the class president, we let those people address their fellow students, and we really make them the focus. You know, I've been to some graduations, as we all have, where maybe a superintendent or principal gets up and gives a 15-minute speech, and that's fine. I mean, people do that way. It's just always been my philosophy that this really is about the kids, and so we want them to be the ones that give the main speech to our students. We obviously, you know, we're always proud of these kids, and you know, we try to keep it here a meaningful, professional event. You go to some places and, you know, there's beach balls and there's frisbees and there are all those kinds of things. We don't do that here. In fact, you know, sometimes we get criticized for being too strict and why can't we let the kids have fun, that kind of stuff. But you know, I don't think people come to watch graduation to watch beach balls bounce around in the student body. I think people come to graduation because they want to see their son, daughter, grandson, granddaughter, niece, nephew, great-grandson, great-granddaughter. They want to see them walk across that stage. And if you have those kinds of things happening in the audience, then that's a distraction for that student who has that maybe 10 seconds where their name is called off, they walk across, they get a handshake, and then they go down. And so it's not fair to them. It's not fair to the kid on the stage. So we're going to do everything we can to ensure our graduations are professionally done, that that the ceremony receives the attention and the courtesy that it's due. And for the most part, our kids conform with that. Now, you know, every other year or so, you know, somebody will have a beach ball and you got to go take it away from them. And, you know, we don't want to make too big a deal out of that. But I think it's important. And I think that's one thing that sets our graduation apart maybe from others that people have attended. And you know, it's interesting, you know, I mean, we'll have people fuss because we don't let them have fun, so to speak. But it's also interesting, if my first year here, we had a lot of beach balls. We've put a stop to it. But, you know, I had in my office the next day, I probably had 4 people in my office to see me because they were upset about the beach balls. I had about 4 people come in to see me because they were upset that we took the beach balls away. So it's just interesting the world we live in, the different opinions that people have about the way things ought to be. But fortunately, in this particular case, it's my opinion that counts, and we're going to have a dignified ceremony and as best we can, and we're going to give everybody a chance to see their kid walk across the stage without distraction.
Absolutely, I'm so happy. I had 2 daughters that walked across that stage, and that's your memory. That's what this is all about. And you know, the thing about our graduation, afterwards, everybody comes down on the football field, and then it's time to let the hair down and throw the hat or whatever.
There's a proper time in all this, and it's, you know, we've kind of gone through I mean, like everything else in our society, things evolve. You know, we went through a period of time in the 70s, early 80s, where there was a lot of discussion about even doing away with high school graduation. You know, it's not important, doesn't mean anything. You know, it's just one more step. Why do we do this? We've kind of weathered that, and it's still something that we do. But I will tell you, you know, as a family member, because like everybody else, I have nieces and nephews, and I've been to some graduations, to some other schools, and I just wonder why they have if that's all it's going to be, is who can do a cartwheel across the stage, or who can be as distracting, then why do it? You know, and that's just the way I feel about it. And we've managed to keep it dignified. I hope we can continue to do that. And again, kids are kids, and so the more structured you want it to be, you know, there always presents a challenge to a student to see, can I sneak in a banner, can I sneak in a golf? You know, I mean, that's just kids. And so, you know, again, as long as it doesn't get too out of hand, we're going to take the balls away, we're going to address the issues. That's one good thing about having a couple days of school left after graduation's over, after we have the ceremony, is it does give us a little bit more of a hammer over their behavior, so that there is a consequence to pay. If they do something they shouldn't do. And again, it's like everything else. 99% of our kids are going to do the right thing. We have that 1% who like to see what they can get away with. A lot of time that 1% also are the kids who are our leaders, who go on to do great things. I mean, you're a bad person because you try to, you know, you or I may have been guilty sometime in school trying to get by with something. Right. You know, so.
Your May board meeting was one of your shortest meetings of the year. It lasted about 45 minutes, and I don't know whether that's the end of the year, that type of thing, but significant things that happened in your May board.
Well, the most significant thing we did last night was recognize our retirees. And we have lots of experience that's walking out our door. And we know that happens every year. It's kind of like graduation. We graduate kids, and I guess to some extent we graduate teachers because they've had a career in education. They've got to the point where they want to do something else with their life. Some of them, they want to spend, especially for some of our women teachers, they want to spend more time with their grandkids. For some of them, it's about travel. But they've gotten to a point where, you know, like all of us get eventually, we're ready to go do something else. We've given our life to something. And we have a lot of experience walking out our door, a lot of people who've given a lot of years to the students in this community. And again, we have a little ceremony. We give them a plaque, and then, you know, and then they take their memories and they go on. But again, I would just encourage, if you have a friend, neighbor, family member who's retiring this year as a teacher or as a support personnel, that, you know, you would take the time to tell them how much you appreciate them giving their life, because what they've done, they've given their life to kids. I mean, because it's not a money thing. You know, we're talking about college-educated people, a lot of people with master's degrees that could have gone on to do other things, but there's something about teaching that captured their heart. And so they They did that for sometimes 30, 35 years. And for some of those people, their whole career has been in Ponca City, and they've taught parents and children. So give them a hug, tell them thanks, and for a job well done.
A lot of people was reading some alarming information about school districts across the state, Dr. Pennington, this week, in particular the eastern part, where you've got large school districts in Tulsa, Broken Arrow, Owasso, Jinx, and a lot of these school districts look on it as a blessing when teachers leave because they can't afford to rehire teachers to come in. Where are we? Do we rehire teachers to replace our retired teachers?
Well, we look at every job very carefully. The last few years we've been very tight on that. And there's been a lot of jobs that we didn't fill when people retired. Some of it's because we needed to restructure programs, and sometimes it's hard to do that. Maybe enrollment, if it's a specialty class, maybe enrollment's dropped. And so, you wait till that person retires and you shift that job to another spot. Right now, our intention is we intend to fill all the spots that people are leaving, whether they're retiring or going someplace else. We don't have a budget, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. I mean, we thought by now we'd have one. We may wait to hire some positions until we know for sure what our budget's going to be. Every school in Oklahoma is in financial distress. Now that distress is different for different schools. Our distress is we can continue to operate our basic programs, but we can't do anything new and innovative that we would like to do. We would like to make, we've made a tremendous investment in technology in this community. We need staff members who can train teachers in the effective use of technology. I mean, we're getting by, we're using it, but we really need people who can become experts, who can walk into those classrooms and show teachers how to really effectively use technology. We can't afford those people. I'd like to hire 6 or 7 people like that, have 2 or 3 at the high school alone and then 1 at every other site. But the cost to do that is somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000, $700,000. We don't have the money to do that right now. Our class sizes are larger than they've been in the past. Now, our class sizes are not as large as what you read in the Tulsa paper. We don't have 40 kids in classes, or we don't have 30 kids in classes, but we're up to 27 in some, 28 in others. Again, that's a function of we've cut staff positions as we've gone through this recession. We haven't added anything back because the money hasn't come back. But we're at least in a position where we're not having to make cuts for next year that would push our class size into the 30s and 40s. Obviously, in Tulsa, you have a group of parents and school administrators who have really kind of convalesced around this issue with some other things that they've been unhappy with the State Department of Education about. And because you have a paper in Tulsa, the Tulsa World, which has always been extremely supportive of education. Tulsa has, you go back to House Bill 1017 in the 1990s, where if some of our folks may remember, that was a landmark legislation to improve our schools, which eventually led to marches, 40,000 teachers at the Capitol marching around the Capitol, a petition filed of a state vote to overturn a legislative decision. We went through all that, but the real protector and driver of that was the Tulsa World. Conservative community, but a community that has always valued education, regressively valued education. You don't necessarily see that in the Oklahoma City area. So the Tulsa administrative group has some freedom to advocate strongly for students and for kids, with knowing that they're not going to get beat up in the newspaper the next day. Now, again, that's not to say the Tulsa paper doesn't take Tulsa schools to task. I mean, a few years ago, they went after the Dr. Zolinsky very strongly because of some decisions that have been made in Tulsa public schools around alternative education. Had a big investigation, ended up resulting in his decision to leave Tulsa. 2 years ago, when we had the state vote to require the state to fund us at the regional average, Tulsa World came out very strongly against that. Not because they were opposed to us being at the regional average, they just didn't think that was good public policy. So the Tulsa paper is not a rubber stamp. But what they did, and if you had a chance to, they ought to go look at the article, they didn't see it, they just did what I think is good journalism. You know, okay, there's an issue about funding of schools, what's happened, what is the truth, what's happened. And the reality is that all the schools in this state have about $400 less to spend today than we had 4 years ago. In our district, we have $2 million less than we had 4 years ago. Why is that? Well, it's because it's an economic issue. I mean, we all know that we've been in what they're calling the Great Recession. We haven't rebounded completely out of that. But we have a legislature that, now that some funding has come back, we're probably, I think the last time I looked, we're within $100 million of having the same state budget that we had 4 years ago. The legislature is doing a couple of things. One, they're thinking about cutting taxes. I will tell you that I bristle when I hear members of the legislature say we're going to protect core services. Well, I think you've got to restore core services before you protect core services, and we haven't restored education funding to where it was 4 years ago. We have more students in schools in the state of Oklahoma, and we're operating on less dollars. To me, that's not protecting core services. Just because you're not going to cut us from where we are now, the discussion should be, how are you going to get us back to where we were? But we don't seem to have that discussion in the state. The other decision the legislature's made is that when the recession hit, and of course they're scrambling to make budget, we're all enduring cuts, and they did something that I don't think they'd ever done before, and that is they did not pay some of the tax credits to some of the companies and corporations in Oklahoma which they granted tax credits to. And they promised them they'd pay them back with interest, which I think is kind of interesting. And so this session, the money they have, that's the difference between the budget we had last year and the budget we have this year, they're repaying those business and corporations first. They're going to pay them back and make them whole before they're going to make education whole, Department of Human Services whole, corrections whole, all of state government. I just find it interesting, and I think this is what's driving a lot of the Tulsa discussion, is that, you know, if you analyze the state budget, they could have made a different decision. They could have said, you know, we're going to put $50 more million into education, which would get us about pretty close to where we ought to be, and then we'll pay back partial money to corporations and businesses. But we're not doing that in this state. We're going to pay those folks back first. Now again, I think the argument would be, well, we're paying these people interest. They never pay us interest when they cut our funds. You know, they always make us start over from this point and move up. But, you know, obviously I'm not a state budget maker. I'm just a guy who looks on the outside and you know, as I know in my budget and the decisions I make, there's a lot of people who think we ought to do things differently. But again, that's kind of the genesis of the Tulsa movement. I don't think it will get much traction this year. I think the work they do now, though, sets the stage for next year, in that, you know, the business community will be paid back, and so now it's time to really, are we going to fund our schools? And then the whole tax cut issue. I mean, you know, no matter how you look at it, taxes in Oklahoma are among the lowest in the country. We're not overtaxed. We may not like taxes, but we're not overtaxed. We have one poll that's out that says if you talk to people, 60% of people in Oklahoma are in favor of eliminating the state income tax. Okay. But you know, it's like, how do you ask the question? Are you in favor of eliminating the state income tax if sales tax and property tax goes up? You know, that changes the dynamic. Are you in favor of eliminating the state income tax, or passing a tax cut if that means you cut funding or you continue to limit services to education, human services, corrections? When you put those numbers together, people flip-flop and they go, well, you know, about 80% of the people say we're not in favor of a tax cut if it means we have to continue to cut education. And so it's all about how you ask the question. And I think that's why, and I think that's also why, from a state level, we haven't had a tax cut agreement because the governor wants a tax cut, but the legislature is kind of going, our people at home aren't clamoring, but we are getting pushback about the funding for schools. What's interesting, those that support tax cuts want to tell us, well, if we can cut taxes low enough, and if we can eliminate the income tax, we're going to grow. We're going to have all these people flocking to Oklahoma because our environment's going to be better. But I've been in education 35 years. If we pass pari-mutuel betting, it's going to increase funding to schools. If we pass liquor by the drink, it's going to increase funding to schools. If we pass the lottery, it's going to increase funding to schools. If we pass casino gambling, it's going to increase funding to schools. I've seen all kinds of schemes to get us more money, and I haven't seen any of them pan out yet. What I want to see is somebody give me a tax plan that says that if we cut your taxes, we are sure that Oklahoma will have $400 million more revenue, and now our schools, if they continue to get 53% of the state budget, will be at the regional average. I don't think anybody's willing to say that. In Texas 2 years ago, they passed a big property tax cut, and then they passed a business tax at the same time, and what they told the state and the parents and school districts was, don't worry, the revenue from the business tax is going to make up for the loss of property tax revenue. Hasn't happened. And so Texas schools are facing billions of dollars in cuts, self-inflicted, because the property tax rates were taxed that people had voted on themselves for a promise that hasn't panned out, and now all of a sudden the legislature is not willing to go back and revisit the issue. And so, and it's not like Texas has a stellar education system anyway, but they're going to experience more cuts to their schools. And part of the problem here in Oklahoma is they cut us and we make it work. We find a way to make it work. And so the public, unless you've got a child that's a third grader and they're in a class of 27 kids, and you happen to have a child that struggles, you don't even notice that we're doing what we're doing. And it's sad. It's not fair to kids. But the bottom line is, as a superintendent, as administrator, we have these discussions with the legislature all the time, and what they tell us, so we never hear anything from nobody. You're the only people that come to us and say this. We never hear this from parents or patrons or the business community. And so hopefully what's going on in Tulsa, slogan is 49 is not good enough. Hopefully that'll catch on statewide, and next session the legislature will feel some pressure to really make some decisions. Obviously we're in a state that doesn't have a lot of revenue. So we're limited in what we can do. But I think with the limited revenue we have, we need to decide what's really important. I know that a lot of people say, well, we give schools more money and we don't see any difference. My argument would be that you've never given us enough money. You give us some more money, then you add twice as many mandates on us. So we're trying to do all these mandates so we don't do anything well. And we just need to have a talk. We need to have a discussion about that and decide what it is we really want to do. And other than trying to make everything work, because when you try to do everything, you don't do anything very well. And I think that's where we are.
Along those same lines, what are our enrollment figures that you have now for next year compared to, say, this last year?
We're up 60 kids over what we were this time last year. At the beginning of the year, we grew 200 kids over the summer. We anticipate, enrollment is hard to predict in Ponca City. It's the most difficult place I've ever been, obviously because of all the turmoil involved with ConocoPhillips the last several years. That's made it a harder target. I think that is stabilized now, and so we can get back to some models that schools use that allow us to predict enrollment. I would anticipate that we're going to finish the year about 5150. I would think next year we may start the school with 5,300 kids. Because the one thing I know is when I'm out in, whether it's church or just out at Walmart or just just out around town, I see a lot of little kids. A lot of I think what's happening is the baby boomers' grandkids are starting to have children, and we're going to start to see that next wave of increased enrollment across the country. It won't be as big as the baby boom was, but it's going to significantly affect our schools for the next 10 to 15 years as that happens. So, and right now, it's kind of funny, we actually are, if we had the money to hire more teachers to help class sizes, absent reopening Washington, we can't address that. We don't have classroom space. It doesn't make sense to reopen Washington, but we probably need to, in the near future, start building some class. What's interesting is, when you look at our enrollment numbers, we need one class at Roosevelt and one class at Trout and one class at Garfield. We don't need, 25 classrooms. We need about maybe 14 classrooms across the district. So, but we'll deal with that, and we'll continue to move forward. And
one final thing, although summer's here, the business operations will continue down here on West Grand as normal too.
Except we come in earlier. I think we start at 7 and we finish at 4:45 Monday through Thursday, and we're closed on Fridays.
Yeah. Have a good summer, and we'll see you in June for the next board
meeting. All right, thank you.
Dr. Pennington with us on Board Wrap-Up.
Did you write this? Barbara Cusick is an educational pioneer that is totally responsible for the development of the professional learning communities at West Middle School. Barbara believed that when a true PLC was in place, West teachers and administrators would be driven to seek and share their learning and then act on what they learned. Her goal was to enhance effective teaching to benefit all students. She created an atmosphere where all West staff members began to grow professionally and learn to view themselves as being on the same team and working toward the same goal, which was to create a better school. Barbara Cusick is a true advocate for the students of the Ponca City Schools. Barbara is famous for always saying, "Do what is best for kids." This philosophy has been her constant mantra. She works tirelessly to help the teachers and administrators provide a quality education to the kids in our school system. Barbara was instrumental in our district making AYP this year. Her guidance and hard work was invaluable. Barbara is a staunch supporter of the teachers. She is a role model for many. Her opinions and advice are highly valued. Her loyalty and genuine concern for both students and teachers has made her an inspiration and earned her the respect of the teachers in this district. Helping the students be successful is Barbara's main goal. She works hard to ensure our schools are the best. She believes in the students and the teachers. Through her leadership, teachers have gained the confidence, skill, and knowledge to give our students the best education. Congratulations, Barbara Cusick.
I'm going to pass up this opportunity. It's a pleasure to work with everyone that I have the opportunity to work with, from the administration staff here at the board to the teachers and to the students, which I dearly miss. But I can go back for my kid fix anytime I need to, so that's a great thing. But this is a great district, and I feel privileged to work in this district.
Take just a minute of personal privilege. When Barbara moved to the central office, she replaced Susan Powell, who had really done a tremendous job for us. And you always are concerned when you lose someone like that, what is the replacement, how's your replacement going to work out? And it's been very fortunate that that Barbara has been a better person in that position than what we had before, which is saying a lot. And so I appreciate what Barbara does. She's been a big help to me, and she, some people just fit in jobs, and I think the job that Barbara has now with working with secondary curriculum is just a great fit for her and her talent. So I'm not going to say anything else nice about you, Cubby. You have to work tomorrow. You can have your certificate.
Tina is a Title I teacher assistant whose main responsibility is to run the computer lab at Union Elementary. Even though this is Tina's job description, she fulfills a myriad of duties and responsibilities. On top of this, she is always a joy to work with. Tina instructs our 3rd through 5th grade students weekly using the computer test preparation program called Study Island. Whenever anyone enters the computer lab, students are always highly engaged. The time spent in the computer lab is time well spent. No academic learning time is ever wasted while students are in the lab because Tina is responsible, prompt, prepared, and passionate about her job. Along with kindergarten through second grade teachers, Tina oversees the implementation and progress of students using the computer-based program entitled Destination Reading. This is a pilot program being used at Union to track the reading progress made by students in grades K through second in regards to reading. This program has been implemented with fidelity, and Tina has played a big part in the success of the implementation of this intervention. Union has a student council for 5th grade students called Union Leaders. Mrs. Hull co-teaches this group along with Sandy Hassenfratz, our curriculum specialist. This group meets monthly, and they focus on being good school leaders. They focus on character traits and exhibiting those traits each day at school and home. They also participate in community service projects. Mrs. Hull also graciously agreed to take on the responsibility of being our webmaster this year, and she has done a tremendous job with this new endeavor. Our website has never looked better. Bottom line, Tina is a great asset to our staff. She's always willing to help out in whatever capacity she's needed. She is a wonderful coworker and greatly appreciated. She is a quiet and humble person that deserves this recognition. I admire her attitude and her work ethic.
The last award is Friends of Education, and that's Eric and Shelley Wilson, who volunteer at Roosevelt. They're not here tonight, so we won't present that till a later date.
All right, now's our special time to honor all of our retiring employees. They've spent many hard days, long years with us, and we are so appreciative. So it's a very special time to get to honor these people. If I call your name, please come forward. And first up is Mark Allgood. Mark has taught for us for 2 years. He is retired out of Marlin Children's Home. You were the English instructor. And Mark, how many years have you taught altogether?
30 years.
30 years. So congratulations, Mark. We have a few people that are not here. Carol Bottoms, is she here? Carol teaches at Lincoln Elementary, and she has taught 17 years for the district. Karen Buzzard, she's not with us this evening. She's home economics at the senior high school, and she's taught with us for 8 years. Jimmie Eatherly is not here. She has taught for the district. She teaches art at senior high. She has taught 25 years with this district. Sharon Garrison is not here this evening. She's PE at Trout, and she has taught 31 years. Bud Jack is speech pathologist at Lincoln Elementary, and Bud has taught 4 years with us. Rebecca Kimbrell, English at Teen Mom, and I know that she's here. Becky, yeah. She has taught 10 years for us. She has taught at the alternative school, I believe, and is currently at Teen Mom. So,
Also, was it East?
oh yes, at East. And how many years altogether? With
Probably 17 or 18.
17 or 18 years altogether, so 10 with us.
Take a picture. Very good. Let's count it. One more.
Well, congratulations. Gay Kinkaid, I know you're here this evening. English at the senior high school, and Gay has taught 30 years with Ponca City Schools. Congratulations. Has your entire teaching career been with us?
No, Virginia.
Virginia, so how many years altogether?
Probably 31 and a half.
Okay, 31 and a half years altogether.
Oh.
John Lee, I don't believe is here. He's physical education at Lincoln Elementary, and he has taught 34 years with the district. Sandy Meador is not here this evening. She's special education at Lincoln Elementary, and she has taught 18 years with the district. Tracy McCloud, English at the senior high school, and Tracy has taught 7 years with us, and how many altogether?
27.
27 years. Congratulations. Wayne Rickman is not here this evening. He is art and technology, graphic arts at East. He has taught 25 years with the district. Sandy Shoptaw is not here with us this evening. She has taught 21 years with the district, and she is second grade teacher at Garfield. Julia Smith, I know you are here, and you are coordinator of Teen Mom, and you have taught 16 years with the district. Is that your total teaching years?
No, 19 total.
19 total.
All right, congratulations. Raydon Bourne, I don't believe I've seen Raydon this evening. She is a teaching assistant at the senior high school, I believe, and she has taught 11 years or worked 11 years with us. Sherry Jackson is custodian at East, and she has spent 37 years with the district. I believe she's undergoing a medical procedure and is not with us this evening. And Lovina Rahn,
Right.
the cookie lady at the senior high school. 22 years with the district, Lovina. So congratulations to each one of our retiring employees. I hope there isn't anyone we have missed on this, but we wish you well. Congratulations.